Match day 3 of the CAF Champions League has come and gone. We're going to recap all of the action and ask a really important question. Does the Champions League need VAR? After the break. Hello and welcome to another episode of the African Five-A-Side podcast. My name is Maher Mizahi. I'm your host, and as always, this podcast is brought to you by africasaCountry.com. I think africasaCountry.com is going on a publishing break starting next week, so you won't be seeing any new articles there. So I recommend you read recommend you read as many articles as you can before then, but it's not like the articles are going anywhere. There's a really cool podcast that was done by the AIAC team called Africa Sibling Rivalry, where they talk about the relationship between Nigeria and South Africa in all kinds of fields. And then there's another one about the singer Tyla. She's South African, and the politics of ambiguity. I don't know anything about Tyla, but I know she's a big star now. And it always seems to make headlines. So if you're interested in that, I'm going to put the links in the description below. And if not, let's talk about the African Champions League. Before we get into the games, and I haven't watched every single game this time, and El Ahly didn't even play, so because they were playing in the FIFA Intercontinental Cup, so we had instead of 8 matches, 7 matches, and then I think I only watched 4 or 5 of them. And I'm gonna give my observations about those matches, but before I start there, can we talk about VAR? I'm not one of those people that, likes to moan and whine about VAR and I don't feel too strongly either way. Like, oh, we absolutely need it at every single stage of the competition, or oh, keep it away from the competition as far as possible. But after watching this weekend's matches, I realized that, man, there were a lot of refereeing errors, a lot, and crucial ones. Esperance de Tunis' second goal was quite clearly offside. Where Rodrigo Rodriguez, the Brazilian striker, was offside before Elias Makwana um, followed in the rebound and tapped it home. Mouloudia Algiers had a penalty shot, Andy Delors, in the 24th minute, and then actually one of their players, Adbi Tepti, went up with a studs up challenge. He could have been sent off if there were video assistant referee. So they could have had a decision go for them and against them. And then I think one of the more talked about points this weekend as well is Raja Casablanca against Mamelodi Sundowns off of a set piece. I think the linesman raises his flag for an offsides, and there was an offsides, but not against the player that actually scored the goal, against somebody else that was just in front of him. And then there's an entire debate to be had about, was this player involved in the action or not? Did he influence the action or not? So could we call that offsides or not? I don't know. But the point is, there were at least 3 or 4 clear-cut occasions where I think it might have been helpful to have, a replay or a fifth official or a sixth or a seventh official take a look at it a few different times and speak to the main referee. So we do usually have video assistant referee in the CAF Champions League. Remember the debacle in 2019? It's in the thumbnail of this YouTube video, where actually it wasn't brought in on time to Tunis. I think it got caught up in the customs, the kit for the VAR. And as a result, they didn't have it for the match. And then Widad was complaining during the match. I think it was about a goal that was disallowed or something, and then decided to walk off the pitch in the 60th minute. And that's how Esperance de Tunis won the CAF Champions League in 2019. So there's a there's a long history already with this relatively new technology in these African competitions. But I think I'm at the point now after seeing all that I saw this weekend, and I'm not again one that likes to harp on about the quality of African refereeing as well. This is coming from somebody that was at, Yannis Sikazwe's blowing the final whistle early twice for Tunisia against Mali, for example. I was there. I was one of the people that was reporting what was happening on the ground as it happened. Every AFCON, I think I see some good referees, I see some not so good referees, but some of the standards over the last weekend in particular were I think almost shocking. Bringing up the Mouloudia against Al Hilal match again, there was an offside that was called on a throw-in. I think it was in the 80th minute or the 82nd minute. And you could just see all the players and the coach, the Algerian players and coach, just like lose their mind. Like, these are things that we learn, as 6, 7, 8-year-olds playing football. How is a professional referee or linesman getting this wrong? And it's not like I said, that's not like the only mistake he makes all game. And there's no apology or anything like that. It's just like, oh, so I'm at a point now where, because the standard of refereeing hasn't been up to par, in my opinion, so far in this competition. I'm more leaning on the side of let's have VAR starting from the group stages. And it doesn't have to be the thing where you bring in the expensive technology from Hawkeye Technologies and you have all these training courses that all the referees have to go through. Maybe I'm wrong about this. Tell me if I'm wrong about this, but the way it's being implemented currently, at least in Algeria, I don't know about the rest of North Africa, is they just do a TV replay. And sometimes they'll have, the referee look at the TV replay. And the referee is just gonna have to be smart and understand, look, if there isn't a clear angle, for example, if you're because TV angles don't have every single, it's not like they have the Premier League technology where you could tell that the person's toenail is offside. So as long as, you know, if it's not clear and decisive, just don't overturn it. But if it is, like in my opinion, Esperance's second goal was, then you can. So yeah, I want to again, VAR arguments and debates tire me out because people usually feel very strongly one way or another, and I don't feel very strongly one way or another. I remember my coach when I was younger telling me, assume that the referee is the 12th man on the other team. Like he's going to make every decision against you. You have to be better than the referee making every single decision against you. Beat them decisively. Don't let the referee be an influence in the game. And that's easier said than done because at this level, teams are so good. The margins of error are so slim that it's difficult. But I love that mentality of not accepting excuses, not letting officiating be an excuse. You could have done better. There were other areas of the match where you could have done better. So that is not the reason why you lost the game. Anyways, all of that said, so I really don't want a huge debate or anything, but what do you think? Should we have VAR starting from the group stages or not? Now, let's get to the matches that I did watch. I watched TP Mazembe versus Young Africans, and this was a match, I call it a match of desperation, because TP Mazembe had 1 point coming into this match, Young Africans had 0 points coming into this match. And in the first match at home that TP Mazembe played in this competition against Mouloudia Algiers, I remember I came on here and I was really complaining about it was a 2 p.m. kickoff. People tell me, no, it's 3 p.m. Maybe it's 3 p.m. in South Africa, but where I'm at, it's 2 p.m. So the point is, it's early afternoon, or middle of the afternoon, and I'm, I'm I was really disappointed for that first match that they had at home, TP Mazembe, because the stands were not packed. And again, TP Mazembe are one of those sides in Central Africa that do have a home advantage in Lubumbashi, so they have to lean on that in this competition. And I looked at their social media pages before the match. The last four posts on Facebook, the TP Mazembe Facebook official page, was trying to get fans into the stadium. They were saying President Katumbi is paying for half of the tickets against the Tanzanian club and asks supporters to fill the stadium this Saturday to push their athletes to victory. They kept tweeting out the slogan, "Impossible is not Mazembe." Uh, like basically, if you're TP Mazembe, you don't understand the concept of impossibility. um, and I think it worked. I flipped on, the television this time, and yeah, there was a huge crowd, and they were making good noise throughout the match, and that's first check mark. That's important in this competition. As for Young Africans, they came into this match um, completely desperate. 0 points. They lose to El Hilal at home, and then they lose to Mouloudia Algiers away from home. Again, they have a new coach. Remember, they fired Miguel Gamondi probably a little prematurely. And Sead Ramovic, the new coach that came from TS Galaxy in South Africa, is talking about, they've been missing their injured players, Dixon Job, Khalid Aucho, Shadrach, Boca. And okay, you have been missing those players. That's right. Then he starts also harping about fitness levels. He says, quote, "Our fitness levels are not where they need to be, but we're working on improving them. The players are adapting to my style, and this takes time." This defeat is disappointing. He's talking about the previous match against Mouloudia Algiers, but we will continue to work hard and bounce back. And I think over here he almost has a point because if you look at the matches, the first two matches that Young Africans played, hung around and they conceded 2 goals at the very end of the match against El Hilal and especially against Mouloudia Algiers. So, when fitness levels drop towards the end of the match, that's when you can make physical and mental mistakes. So, I think that is probably a valid analysis of his own team from Ramovic. But how long is it going to take for you to start getting results? That's the question. Because there are other new coaches who we're going to talk about in this competition, and they managed to get good results right away. So, anyways, Mazembe getting to the match. Mazembe was playing a 4-2-3-1. Young Africans pretty much the same thing. And I could say, like I said, it was real atmosphere. The other last miscellaneous note before we get into the tactics, I love Yanga's gold jerseys. The young African gold away jerseys, beautiful. In my opinion, amongst the best I've seen so far in this competition. Um, so as the match started, I felt that Yanga were matching Mazembe's urgency. You could tell that these were two, I'm not gonna say desperate, but sides that were playing with a lot of urgency and intensity. Um, I have two main tactical observation, two main tactical observations from either side. For Yanga, they were using Pacom Zuzua, their Ivorian winger, who's one of the most entertaining players in this competition last year. They were using him instead of on the right wing in a much more narrow position, almost like a right central midfielder. He was tucking in and dropping deeper instead of staying wide and staying in advanced positions. So they were trying to involve him in the build-up play much more often. That was one of the main observations that I made. And his right back, Kwasi, was overlapping very, very well. As for Tipe Mazembe, the main observation I made was, there's this debate. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with this. Like, I'm not a big tactics person, but like, positionism against, what is it called? Relationism or relativism? I don't know what it is. But basically, it's about either playing really strict positions when in possession of the ball, or just sort of being way more fluid and flexible, maybe flocking towards the ball. And I think the main example everybody uses Fluminense from Brazil, where you can have like, yeah, a right midfield. There's no such thing as a right midfielder. If the ball's at the left, as left Marcelo, the left back, has the ball, everybody's gonna flock over, create little triangles, and they all flock over to one side of the pitch, overload it, and that creates many different solutions. Whereas positionism is much more, hey, stay in your position, pin the player there, and keep the pitch, as wide as possible, and we're gonna play that way. And I think Mazembe really did play with strict positional discipline, especially when they have the ball. Their wingers are pinning the opposite fullbacks on opposite sides of the pitch. They're really stretching out the opposition, and they're playing long passes. I think that kind of system works because they do play long balls. Um, and so yeah, that was my main observation for them. But still, um, as I've said throughout the year, I thought that the attacking quality from both sides, but in particular Mazembe, was quite poor. And things changed only when the heat started to get to players, the heat and the pitch. There was a lot of injuries in the first half. I think three first half injuries. Um, I think the young Africans goalkeeper Jiggy Diarra, who comes off at halftime, and two Mazembe players. And one of the Mazembe players that comes on is Sheikh Fofana. He's a Malian, wiry, tall forward player. He's like a striker, but he's a striker that plays from wing positions. It's a weird one where he excels at, being matched up against the smaller fullback and winning crosses in the air or on lower high crosses. He's really, really good at that. And because Mazembe are really so lacking options, I personally think he should be starting matches. Because that's exactly how they score. It's Johnson Atibu. It's not Oscar Kabwiter starts. Johnson Atibu, the right back, that gets on the ball, puts it across, and it's exactly that matchup. Sheikh Fofana on a smaller fullback, and he just absolutely obliterates the fullback and wins the ball in the air and scores a goal, a headed goal. And he does that in the 41st minute, so going into halftime. In the second half, Yanga throw the kitchen sink at Mazembe, and I think the substitutions were very good. Prince Dube, great. Cletus Shama from Zambia, and Clement Mzize in particular. He threw on Aziz Ki as well, and I was expecting more from Aziz Ki, but those three, Dube, Shama, and Mzize, in my opinion, were the reasons why Yanga managed to equalize and did equalize. Um, During the final minutes of the match. One thing that I would say that's encouraging for Ramovic is that Yanga didn't fade towards the end of the match. They kept the intensity up. It seemed like physically they were in better place than they were 2, 3 weeks ago. And the ball comes to Zuzua on the left wing, so he's moving all over the pitch, just trying to make sure he's involved in the build-up play. He puts in a cross. The ball's headed out, I think, to is it Mzize? I think it's Mzize. He gets a shot on goal. There's a rebound, and Prince Dube scores the equalizer. So look, I think a draw is not a great result for either side, unfortunately for them. Because now Mazembe has 2 points after 3 matches, and Yanga only has 1 point after 3 matches. And so I think for either of these sides to really want to almost guarantee advancing to the next round, they're going to have to win their last 3 matches. And that's an incredible amount of pressure in a very, very tough and balanced group. And so I don't think the outlook is positive for either side here. That result is not great, but even though Mazembe has 1 point more than Yanga, Mazembe's played 2 matches at home now, and Yanga's only played 1 match at home. And the fact that they equalize at the very end, that's much more of a momentum boost for Yanga than it is for Mazembe. So I really think that Yanga are going to come out of these 90 minutes feeling a little better than Mazembe, but still, I think they were looking for the win of it here. So yeah, good match. Finished 1-1. Not so much attacking, not so many attacking chances, but I thought it was a good match. Stade d'Abidjan versus Orlando Pirates. I watched this match. I was really skimming. I was watching little by little. I watched most of the first half, and then the second half, I didn't really uh, pay too much attention. Pirates, before the match, I wrote down some notes. Returning to Felicia, where they won the 1995 African Champions League, the first ever Champions League in South African football history. That was against Azek Mimosa, not Stade d'Abidjan. Um, Before the match, Jose Rivera was talking about Stade d'Abidjan, and he says, "We managed to have multiple videos of them. They're quite rigid tactically." And remember, Stade d'Abidjan have a 27-year-old coach, French coach, and to be honest, watching the first 3 matches, I'm not gonna say I was disappointed, but I was expecting to see more. For a 25-year-old to be hired when at the time he was 25 when he was hired. Now 2 years on, he's 27. Like who is this guy? He's not even on the touchline. Why did they take such a big chance on him? Like he must be some kind of genius. I haven't been that impressed with Stade d'Abidjan, but the one area where they have worked on, and you could tell that they work on, watch them before they take a set piece. And this is one of those things that like it's a basic thing, and most coaches should do it, but not everybody does. And you could tell Stade d'Abidjan does work on their set pieces, and that would go on to affect this match in the second half. But I remember thinking before the match started, if I were Pirates, I wouldn't mind a draw here, you know, because you're in a group where you already have a little bit of a lead. You beat, CR Belouizdad, who's probably going to be your main opposition for the second place here. You beat them at home, and so they have to come to Orlando in altitude, where they're probably not going to win there. So I think, for me, there wasn't as much urgency. I was kind of in a position where I was like, it's fine, like just get a draw. Make sure you don't lose this match. As even as poor as what's their face has been, Stade d'Abidjan, just don't get a draw. 1 second. So yeah, as the match started, I noticed that Pirates pretty much had the same lineup as the one they used against Al Ahly, with the exception of Nkota comes back in for Salang. First, and so I remember I watched this match after it was played, and I remember seeing some commentary online while the match was being played live, and people saying, lackluster performance, no urgency, na na na. And so I flicked on the match expecting a very boring match, and in the first 15 minutes, I think there was 5 chances for Orlando Pirates. They were completely on Stade d'Abidjan from the get-go. And it was just like the link-up play was beautiful from Mofokeng, from uh, Nkota, from Makopa, Mbata, even Mahaula had, an early chance that he snatched at. And so the interplay was beautiful, giving goes, running past one another, overlapping. It was just when they got to the final third, like really just the last kick, it was just always uh, Mahaula snatched that one. Uh, I forget, Hoto just blazed one over the bar. Just the last shot was really poor. And I'm going to talk about MC of Algiers next, and I'm going to talk about the lack of confidence from their forwards. Them doing everything well until they get to the box and then not playing well because perhaps they're lacking confidence. I don't think that's the case for Pirates players. Like it's not like they're lacking confidence. I think it was just one of those days maybe where they should have scored, they could have scored, and they just didn't score. And if they would have scored, if they converted 2 out of those first 6 chances that they had in the opening 30 minutes, I mean, you're laughing. But they didn't, and they get into the 40th minute, and Mofokeng wins a penalty right before a half. And he wins a penalty because he's facing goal on the left wing, and he's dribbling at a player, turns away from him, and gets fouled by another. And me personally, I don't think he was poor in the number 10 position, just like I don't think he was poor in the number 10 position against Al Ahly. And I'm not gonna act like I watched Mofokeng play 30 matches like many of you probably have, but I just think that from the little that I have seen of him, I'd much prefer him facing goal in half spaces or taking on a fullback one on one. Uh, I don't think that he's a number 10. It's just my opinion. Not that he can't play there, not that he can't deputize there until maybe Tito is healthy or until, if Pirates need him to play there. I'm sure he can play there and play there well. but I just think he's absolutely lethal as a left winger. You want to capitalize. His dribbling is his strong suit. It's not his, passing, in my opinion. Not to say his passing is poor, but I just think his dribbling is that's what scares me personally. So he wins that penalty. Mahopa takes what I thought was a fairly average penalty, but scores it 1-0. So I did. That's the first half that I saw. I saw honestly Pirates dominate away from home. I think they had 9 shots on goal, made more than 60% possession. With the exception of 5 to 8 minutes of that first half, they absolutely were on top of Stade d'Abidjan. And watching that, I would have predicted that the match would have finished 3-1, 4-1. But I didn't watch the second half, but it didn't surprise me that Stade d'Abidjan scored on a free kick. So yeah, like I said, before the match, I would have taken a draw, honestly. It's not good to be too greedy. I know like Pirates are very ambitious this year, but these are not easy matches. Even playing against Stade d'Abidjan or Sagrada or Joliba, like away from home on the African continent is not easy. So take take what you can and make sure you win your matches at home. Like I think Pirates after these first 3 matches they played 2 away and 1 home. So now they're gonna have the advantage playing 2 home matches down the stretch. They get CRB at home. That's the match you're really gonna have to focus on, in my opinion. You have to beat CRB when they come to Orlando Stadium. Anyways, MC of Algiers versus Al Hilal. Al Hilal have become, I think, them and Pirates, my favorite side to watch in the group stages of this Champions League. And this is the opposite of a desperation match. If Mazembe versus what's their face, Yanga was a desperation match, this is not a desperation match because I think whoever won this match is virtually qualified. And Al Hilal are now sitting on 9 points. I think they are practically qualified, and I say that because of the tightness of this group. I don't think I think there's going to be many draws in the final 3 matches, and as a result, um, I thought personally there was going to be more pressure on MCA, Mouloudia Algiers at home than Al Hilal because they were playing at home. But it was weird watching an empty stadium again, and you really understand this if you know MCA Algiers as a club. Like their fans are part of what defines that club. So the fact that they didn't get to play in front of their fans again, I think was very sad. And hopefully that's the last time. Now their suspension is over. And so for the third and final match of the group stages that they'll play at home, um, they'll play in front of fans. I think that's going to be a uh, big, what can I say, advantage for them when it's going to be against Mazembe. What else? MCF Algiers lined up in a 4-2-3-1 is what I expected with those two industrious midfielders and one of the creative ones. Al Hilal in a 4-3-3, so they bring in Wali Eldin Khidr, the tall, again, workman-like midfielder who they call Pogba, instead of Tendeng, Eme Tendeng, the more Senegalese creative midfielder. So again, that's what I would expect Al Hilal to do away from home. Again, I'm watching how do these teams start the match. Orlando started very well. Young, I thought, matched Mazembe's urgency, so they were both playing with a lot of intensity. MC of Algiers started this match with a lot of urgency as well and intensity, and they created clear goal scoring opportunities in the first 5 minutes through Zakaria Darawi. Um, and then Al Hilal starts to grow in the game and they start trading blows. I was really watching their young wingers, Adama Koulibaly and Jean-Claude Giroud Mugisha. These are 2 players that have won matches for their for their club. And despite the fact that they're only 18, 19, 20 years old, I think Giroud Mugisha is 20 and I think Koulibaly is 18. Um, so these are the players that I'm really watching, perhaps for the next few years as they probably end up in Europe. And they were honestly not special for the first 30, 40 minutes. But around the 40th minute, they flipped wings. So Koulibaly goes on the left and Giro Mugisha on the right. And that actually helped a lot. Koulibaly had a much better match after that. Um, and yet, after the first 10 minutes, Mouloudia Algiers' chances are half chances. And so at halftime, I'm thinking to myself, what's going on? Is this a confidence problem, or does Mouloudia Algiers not have the quality that it thinks it has? And I think it's both. I think it is absolutely a confidence problem. And that's, one of those things, like I said before, it's like the ketchup bottle. Goals bring goals, momentum brings momentum, confidence brings confidence. So it's one of those where you have to break through the barrier, break through the glass ceiling, and then things will be easier. Uh, but for the quality of players, I'm looking at their squad, I'm looking at their starting 11, and I'm thinking, maybe we overhyped them a little bit. I know they won the Algerian League last year, but they won it with Youssef Belaili. They'd never replace Yusuf Belaili, and I don't think it's possible to replace Yusuf Belaili. Um, Zakaria Naiji is an okay striker, but he's playing on the left wing. Okay, Andy Delort has absolutely not lived up to expectations. New club, new country, new competition he's never played in. Did we really, was it smart to sort of gamble the future of the club's Champions League campaign on a striker that's never played in this competition before? And Andy Delort. That's something that the MCF Algiers board has to look at themselves for. Tayyip Miziani on the right wing is an average player, in my opinion. Average. Like, does not deserve to be, you know, a right winger for a club like this that aspires to be a contender for the CAF Champions League, in my opinion. Maybe he can come off the bench. And he's a good kid, and I feel bad about saying that, but it's just my opinion. He's he's not somebody that's going to win you the game. And if you're Mouloudia Algiers, you want somebody that's going to win you the game in every single position. That's what Esperance Tunis have. That's what Al Ahly has. Hell, that's almost what Al Hilal has with these, very talented wingers. So personally, I think Mouloudia Algiers, they this summer their transfer window, they failed. They failed. They didn't add the quality that was needed to match their ambition. Anyway, second half started. MCF Algiers is defending Al Hilal's verticality well, because remember, Al Hilal scored the only way the first two matches they scored 4 goals, and all of them were through like counter attacks or playing balls into space and attacking with pace and being very, very vertical. So MCF Algiers, I was watching them. They're midfielders, they're strikers. You could tell that the coach drilled it into them. When you lose the ball, make sure you get back into place, and they were doing it very well. And Al Hilal were also showing that they could defend on the road again after showing that they could do that again at Yanga in Dar es Salaam. They're doing it again in Algiers. Two very, I should say, rough atmospheres, even if MCF Algiers didn't have any fans there. And then Al Hilal score via set piece. And here it's horrible defending from the left back, Hamza Mouali. It's just a normal cross. And it's one of those where the guy just like, he lets his man go. And look, I played football, not at a super high level or anything. I know what's going on in his head. It's laziness, and he doesn't like to defend here. It's like, yeah, one of my main, my central defenders is probably gonna, this guy Gisuma Fofana is not the tallest guy. He's probably not gonna get on the end of this and score. One of my main defenders is gonna clear it, and I'm gonna get into position. It's like if you're in that position, man, again, that them conceding that goal, it's either the coach being completely lax, or he's either coaching it or he's letting it happen, like the Americans say. Because I guarantee you, that's not the first time that Hamza Mouali's been lazy defending that set piece there, and he let his men go. And if you're a coach, you should have seen that. You should have detected that way earlier before, and you should have been on that. Because I guarantee, I haven't watched every MCF Algiers match. I guarantee you that's not the first time he did it. Because defending set pieces, more than anything, is a mentality. It's about being aggressive. It's about absolutely refusing, on a matter of pride, that your man is going to beat you. And then you could talk about, vertical leaps and height and positioning and zone marking and man marking. But the first thing, it's an attitude. And Hamza Mouali letting his man go there, like I said, absolutely criminal. Reminds me of, uh, for those of you that are old enough, I can't believe I'm talking like this now, but the 2006 World Cup when Thierry Henry scores a free kick, not the free kick, but it's a free kick that Zinedine Zidane hits over, and Thierry Henry scores against Brazil, and Roberto Carlos is tying his shoe, just completely lets his man go. And if he knows that Thierry Henry is going to get on the end of it, he's going to track back. But he did. It's laziness. It's an attitude again. You have in this position 10, 15 minutes to go left in the game. You're a defender, you're a fullback. I know you're an attacking fullback, but you do that, absolutely inexcusable. Anyways, and then once they score, it's almost like, all right, rip the page out, there's a new match that's beginning, there's 15 minutes left. uh what's it gonna look like? I remember writing, okay, a new match begins, horizontal or vertical. What are MCA gonna do? Are they gonna sit there and take it easy and try to find that one perfect opportunity, pass it side to side to side, and then make sure when that one perfect opportunity presents itself, you capitalize? Or are they gonna absolutely bombard um, El Hilal's goal? And it was more the second, that they created three chances, three clear goal scoring opportunities in 3 minutes. And here's where I'm gonna tip my beanie off to Issa Fofana. the 20-year-old Ivorian goalkeeper who came up with no less than 3 or 4 great saves. And he's been man of the match for 2 out of the 3 matches that Al Hilal have played. He's come up absolutely clutch away from home. So Al Hilal were not doing anything sophisticated in defending. There was no press, like no complicated press or anything. They were just defending like lions, again, with a great attitude. And they deserve to win. 1-0, honestly, they deserve to win. After the match today, actually, 10 minutes before I recorded this, Mouloudia Algiers have actually fired their coach, Patrice Baumel, the French coach, former coach of Côte d'Ivoire. Um, I personally think that this is premature again. He won you the league last year, but anybody that watches knows it was more Youssef Beledi that won Mouloudia Algiers the league, not Patrice Baumel. But he's in his farewell video, he said, "Look, we're in every single competition this year, and it's true. They're not in a bad position in the Champions League. They're not in a bad position in the league, and they're not in a bad position in the Algerian Cup. So it's one of those where at a club like Mouloudia Algiers, there's so much pressure, and that pressure can be negative and toxic. I think the president was feeling the pressure, and he just felt like he had to get the pressure off of him, and his probably failure to have good enough signings over the summer, and probably shift it onto somebody else. And just 20 months after getting the job, after winning the league for the first time in 15 years, Bomel is fired. So that's why, coaching in Algeria, man, that's coaching in, I think, in Africa in general is tough. There's very, very little patience, especially at a club like Mouloudia of Algiers. Anyways, moving on to the final 2 matches, Esperance de Tunis versus Pyramids. Um, Both of these teams will qualify because they have Sagrada Esperança and Joliba in their group. So what I wanted to see from this match is, how do these teams take this match on? How do they view it? Are they thinking this is a future matchup? We could see this team in the knockout stages, so let's impose ourselves. Let's send a message right now. Or are they saying, look, it's just the third match day. Let's take it easy. Let's relax. Um, you know, we're gonna qualify anyways. And I think Esperance showed up and they had a message to send. Like, this was the best match they played all year. They were very vertical. They created many chances. They defended as a group. The players that I had question marks about, like the young goalkeeper Amanullah Memish this year, or the center half Hamza Jalasi, who was horrible over the last 2 matches, and I was saying they need to replace him as soon as possible, or even bring in a fullback to play as a center half. He had a great game, not a great game, but he had a solid game. Um, and the Esperance's breakthrough comes through Yusuf Beleli, and this is why you bring him back. He's top match. And he's been top since throughout the entire Champions League campaign, since playing against the Somalian team that I forget their name was, and they win 12-1 on aggregate or 12-0 on aggregate. He's been, I think, I want to say he has more than 15 goal and assist contributions already this season, and we're not even, I think, finished the first third of the season. He's incredible. This is a player that, and just to describe the goal, he dribbles past 3 players against Pyramids FC players, very good players, and smacks the ball into the top right corner from the top of the box. This is a player that in Europe, they're never going to properly recognize his greatness. And that's fine. And I think even around the rest of the continent, he has respect. But same thing, you're never gonna the people outside of Algeria and outside of Esperance de Tunis, I think, will never truly recognize his greatness. But if you've watched him like I've watched him, at least play 10 to 15 matches per year over the last 5 years, 6 years, you realize, man, like, there aren't many players in world football, and I mean this sincerely. Like, there aren't many players in world football that can do the things that he can do on the pitch. And his physical condition is not good enough to ever be considered world class. His mentality and his professionalism is not, and work ethic is not good enough to ever be considered world class. But that's sort of the charm of Yusuf Beledi as well. It's like he's one of those players that, you'll see smoking a hookah the night before, stuffing his face with a pizza and a shawarma, showing up to training 20 minutes late, and then still going out on the pitch and dribbling past 4 of your defenders and scoring a goal. That's his genius as well. You understand what I'm saying? It's kind of like that flawed thing that Maradona had. It, there's something about it. It's not Cristiano Ronaldo who every second of every day is thinking about how am I going to immortalize myself as the greatest player of all time. It's almost the opposite of that. And he still manages to do what he does on the pitch. I'm really looking forward to seeing how he does for the rest of the Champions League campaign and the Club World Cup. Anyways, the second goal, as I mentioned, was actually offside. The ball comes from Raid Bouchniba, the young, promising Tunisian right back, over the top of the defense. Rodrigo Rodriguez, the Brazilian striker, who was hurting pyramids all day with his movement and his overall link-up play, he gets on the end of it, tries to score, and I think Esperance need him to score because he's in a little bit of a goal-scoring drought. And like as we mentioned about Indy Delort, like the strikers, they need to score goals to have that confidence. But the goalkeeper makes a good save, and Elias Mokwana, the South African winger, follows in the rebound and scores the goal. And he has been one of the nicest revelations that I've had, the privilege of watching over the last over 2024, because I first saw him, I think, in March 2024 at the international window with Bafana. And he has the knack for being in the right place at the right time. I really, really like watching him. And I read about him, and I saw that he was like not necessarily always touted, as the next big thing when he was a young player. I think he wasn't really playing professional football until much later than everybody else. And I think he plays with that sort of hunger that, like somebody that has to hustle to make it plays with. So I really, really like him. He has good positioning and plays hard. And besides those two, Bileli and Makwana, who were summer signings, Abdurrahman Konate, the 18-year-old Ivorian central attacking midfielder, Ogbelu, the Nigerian defensive midfielder, they were great as well. They were the next two best players. And so the top four best players were all summer recruits. Compare that to MC of Algiers. Esperance de Tunis absolutely had the best transfer window, in my opinion, of anybody else on the continent. And that's why earlier on, before the Champions League started, I picked them to win this tournament because I just saw that they improved everywhere else. Now, they have another test coming up in the winter because they don't have any center halves. They need a quality center half, and if they can do that and maybe add one more signing, I think I'll maintain that prediction. But if not, if they don't have a quality transfer window in January, um, that's one thing that could actually trip them up later on in the year. Anyways, I want to see them kick it into fourth and fifth gear now because Esperance started the year slowly. Look, they have Club Africain in the Derby next week. I want them to prove what they're really about. Now I want them to hit a next gear and like I talk about the Nigerian national team, I want them to start winning matches 3-0, 4-0, and prove that you're up there with Al Ahly. But Esperance are practically through like Al Hilal, so yeah, keep it up. Finally, Mamelodi Sundowns versus Raja Club Athletic of Casablanca. I was really looking forward to the midfield battle here. Um, I don't understand what Sundowns made a coaching change before the match, and I don't really understand what Sundowns are doing here. Like Coach Mangoba is gone, probably too early. I never really liked listening to him. I thought he had a lot of it. He had an ego. I thought his communication was horrible. Um, but the instability of changing a coach so soon in the season, especially a coach that was known at the club, I'm assuming that was respected at by the players because Sundowns, they always talk about them being a family. And it's one of those things where you had, the culture of Sundowns from the outside seems like, look, you had Pizzo for many years, you had Rulani for many years. Like, it doesn't seem like they're going to be like the North Africans, like the Mouloudia Algiers coach that's like fired after 20 months. Are Sundowns going to become one of those clubs that has a coach every single year or two coaches per year? So I again, my problem with the previous coach was like more PR than what he was doing on the pitch. I didn't think it was horrible, the product that Sundowns were putting on the pitch. Um, and then who are you replacing him with? If you're going to make a midseason replacement like this, are you going to bring in somebody that's special? They bring in Miguel Cardozo, the former Esperance coach. He's okay. I think he's a good man manager. He's a good tactician. But I don't think he has the attacking philosophy, or at least I haven't seen that. Um, that a club like Mamelodi Sundowns probably want, that the fans want. That the I remember asking Gulani Mukona, like, how did you why do you play this style of football, this attacking brand of football? And him saying it's expected of me at a club like Mamelodi Sundowns. Him, giving the credit right back to the club, like this club wants beautiful, attractive football. I don't know if Miguel Cardozo is going to do that, but maybe you can't play that kind of football at Sundowns and win the Champions League. So we'll see. It's one of those where we're going to judge on results. Yeah, one thing that I wouldn't do is I wouldn't judge a coach in the first match or the first few matches because there's an effect, a psychological effect of having a new coach where all the players are trying their hardest to try and impress the new coach. There's a, an uplifting where it's like, all right, it's a new era of the club. Let's get off to the right foot. There's extra motivation. So there's like an interim wave. Don't surf the interim wave. I think we can only really judge Miguel Cardozo for good or for bad, you know, 10 to 20 matches in. So I think that's when we're going to start getting a clear image of who he is and what his Sundowns team is going to look like. So, anyways, as I started watching the match, it was an empty stadium again for Sundowns initially. They filled it up quite well at the end. I could even hear at the beginning the Raja traveling supports, and that was something that I was like, yeah, that's kind of scary. And the fans, maybe you guys can help me out with this. When the Sundowns fans do like the double L's, what does that? What does that mean? Is that something particular to Sundowns or not? Because I'm always trying to learn more about all of the clubs and about African football culture in general. So if you could tell me what the double L's are, that would be pretty helpful. Um, yeah, tactically, I saw when Sundowns were on the ball initially, Marcelo Allende and the other center halves, other central midfielders, like Thibaut Mokoena, they were dropping deep, getting onto the ball deep. I saw the fullbacks pushing up, Nunga and what's his name, Mudau. I thought Sundowns were counter pressing very, very well. And I don't know if that's something that Cardozo instilled or if that's something that's just in the DNA of the club through the various different coaches that have passed through at the time. So when they did lose the ball, they usually recovered it, in the opposition and very quickly. Overall, I was very impressed with Ikram Reyners, even in the first half before he scored his goals. And I thought Raja were making a fist fight. But look, at the end of the first half, Sundowns had 66% possession of the ball, 3-1 shots not on goal, 3-1 shots in total. And I'm thinking to myself, ain't nothing really changed. This is the frustrating Sundowns that we see in the Champions League. Um, and in the second half, they started and they were slightly better. Um, and then for the second time in this campaign of the CAF Champions League, Ronwen Williams creates a goal with his distribution. And this one in particular really, really reminded me of Itu Milankune, who I didn't watch too much of, but I remember watching I think it was before the 2013 AFCON in South Africa, where I think South Africa played a friendly match against Algeria, because that's where I really watched him closely. And he was spraying the ball all around the pitch. And he would do that one where his body is almost, I don't know how to explain it. His leg is like way up here, and he hits it down, and he puts backspin on the ball by slicing down like this, slicing down, and that's what. And the ball just sort of spins this way, and then as it hits the ground, it slows up for the player. So he hit it a little bit further than the player, and it'll slow up for the oncoming runner. And that's what Williams does, which is beautiful, 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 beautiful. What a pleasure, what a joy watching Ronwen Williams, and I hope he wins goalkeeper of the year. I vote. Well, I shouldn't tell you, but I voted for him goalkeeper of the year, and we'll know if he wins that tonight or not. But yeah, great player to watch, even though he's just a goalkeeper. So great pass, even better finish, by the way, by Ikram Reyners. To because he's facing one corner flag and he hits the ball diagonally in the other sense. So he's facing this way and he's hitting the ball this way. And couldn't have better placement if he wanted to. And Esniti couldn't reach it as it hits the bar and trickles in. So, and Ikram Reyners, what a signing. Where's this guy been? How come he's only at a South African club, a top South African club at 28 years old? This guy, he's what Bafana were missing at the last AFCON, in my opinion. And I cannot wait to watch him play over the next 2 years with South Africa and with Sundowns. I really, really like this guy. Intelligent, technically proficient, a hell of a finisher. Remember, Ronwin set him up with another goal where I think it was just Ronwin directly to Rangers and he hit it on the half volley and scored against Asfar Rabat. Yeah, so Roger started getting into the game after Sundown scored, but I noticed that all of their chances came from set pieces, including, by the way, the goal that they scored that probably, this is a debate. Was it onside or not? I've seen those given either way. Me personally, I don't see how the first player isn't interfering with Saber Bougrin who scores the goal, or isn't interfering because if you're a goalkeeper, you know if you see the first player sliding for the ball like that, you don't know if he's going to get a nick on it or not. It's going to mess with your positioning. So I think he obviously does interfere with it, and he was offside. As for the second player, he wasn't offside, and he scores the goal. So yeah, I've seen those given either way, but I just would like VAR to be used in the group stages just so that can be looked at, and then the decision can be explained either way. But it's frustrating for players and for the coaches for that not even to be looked at, and I can understand that. Steve Compella and and Miguel Cardozo are hugging a little too intimately on the touchline towards the end, but if it was a really good feel-good win for Cardozo, it must have been a very hectic schedule for him coming in like that, meeting all the players, meeting all the staff, intense training sessions, getting prepared for a game, and that probably feels so good to get that win at home against a really good club in Raja. But not good for Raja because they already have two defeats now, right? Two defeats and a draw against Maniama, and two defeats against Asfarabat and Sundowns. So this is also a tight group, so it's too early to write them off, but they really have to be a lot more urgent as well, and maybe even sign a player as soon as the transfer window opens up in January to try and make sure that they can have a deeper run in this competition, because they haven't really been outplayed in any of the matches. That's got to be the frustrating thing for them. This one, yes, they were outplayed. They were outplayed, but not horribly so, but they were outplayed in this one. But still, they performed better than 1 point, and so that's probably frustrating for them. Anyways, we're going to wrap this up. I think we're nearly going on 50 minutes and not even by reviewing all of the matches. So thank you for watching another episode of the African Football Roundup on the African Five-A-Side podcast. We'll leave it there. We will be reacting to the winners of the CAF Awards tonight, so there'll be another video up either tonight, late night, or tomorrow morning, explaining how we voted there and if the winners that were selected were, in our opinions, the right winners. So it's going to be a very busy week. Keep it locked in. Subscribe, give a 5-star rating, give a thumbs up, and we'll speak soon. Peace.